I've been wanting to do something out of the classic fantasy genre for a while, and I picked this up. I picked this up some time ago. It's made a brief appearance in one of my other videos as we look at the author credit here, but I didn't really use it. I just used it for some tables in the back. What I want to do in this video is demonstrate the creation and playing of a short, one-off adventure that takes place in a city. And this is called a Rules Light Street and Sorcery role-playing game with an old school spirit. It is very much of urban city feel and life with a sort of supernatural twist, and being somebody who is from a city, New York City, in fact, and somebody who has spent the last 3 months within a very few block radius of a very particular place in Manhattan, I am desirous of imagining city life in a slightly different way, and perhaps in a way that is also related to what's going on now. We're looking at the credits here down the side. One thing that is particularly notable about this book, and you'll see it as we go through it, is that though there are many artists listed here as contributing to the interior art, the artistic theme is very consistent throughout. I mean, it's clear that there are different styles, as you'll see as we go through, but a lot of it is similar in style, and all of it just really works thematically excellently to create a noir-ish with a twist feeling. The typeset and the white paper and the very dark ink, the production overall is very pleasing to me. The book has held up. I've used it a bit. The book has held up nicely, and I got this, I'm pretty sure I got this through Drive-Thru RPG. I'll have to check and confirm that, but it was, a print on demand in essence when I purchased it. Anyway, the quality is nice. The show through on the paper is also not too bad at all, given the type of black and white production. So all of that adds to the pleasure of using this material. The game is described as a corrupted city, that the adventures take place in the corrupted city of a fantastical and horrific version of our own world. I'm not going to go through the character creation at all. I've decided to run, I'm going to have 2 characters here, and I've mostly filled this out. There are, and I'm picking up one of my characters. There are actually these 2 right here on these pages, and these are sort of my character concepts. I'm going to go with this. The Nimble is the fastest and most agile person you know. Anyone who sees you in action believes that too. If someone needs a skillful infiltrator, they call you. And we're pairing this Nimble with the Smart. If someone needs to find out the truth about something or wants to discover what is known about a particular subject or even supernatural creature, it's you they turn to. As we play through the game, I'll explain not only how the game works, but what the special abilities are. The Nimble can have also one of the skills of somebody else. So this is a way I'm going to give the Nimble a little access to magic, and the Smart also has a little access to magic. It says he has ritualistic magic, although unable to fully learn the intrinsically complicated arcane arts. The Smart can cast spells in a ritualized fashion. So there's going to be a little access to magic here, but I'm not actually running the character who is the one that really focuses on the magic, which is the Gifted. The other character archetypes, just for your interest, there's the Tough, and I think that's what we have, and the Gifted that we're not running. What we're going to do now is go to the back of the book, because I'm going to create my entire story based on the random tables that are in this book. So this single book is a combination, in essence, of the of a player's handbook as well as the GM's handbook, and the whole game can be run with it, and a whole solo experience can be run with it. As usual, of course, I'm going to be bringing in most likely some things from my solo RPG wallet, which are various types of oracle tables or ways of decision making about certain things, yes and no, and I have all different variety of these that we'll be using. We're going to create our adventure and adventure goals using the adventure generator here. Starting with this table here, adventure goals. This is a D66 table, and for that we'll be rolling using these two dice. 43. Save an important individual. Note that down here. So we're on some kind of rescue mission. The adventure locations, let's see where I don't know if this is where we're going to start, where we're going to end up. 64, a spaceship. No, I do not want to be in a spaceship. 46, a luxurious hotel. Okay. If I'm rolling on a random table and I get something that's really not working, I'll do the reverse number of my roll to see if something like that works better, because the point of a random table is, yes, to give you something random, but not to force you into a situation that you don't want to be in. I don't want to do a spaceship. I don't want to do a spaceship thing here. Adventure antagonists. We've got 15, an insane gang leader, and again, we could look to 51, a manipulative vampire, if we thought that. But we'll go with some type of group of people who is an antagonist to our 2. We'll figure that out and see if we have, not sure about a supporting cast member. I'm going to leave that for the moment. An adventure complication. We rolled a 66. What seems supernatural isn't. And what will our reward be? Our reward will be fame among criminals. Perhaps we are somehow trying to deal with this opposite group of people so that we ourselves can be promoted in some way for our group of people. A city theme. 62, debased pleasures. Let's see, what's 26? Crime infested. I'll go with crime infested. Let's see, city events, neighborhood locations, building features. All right, we'll go with a city event. 32, polarized elections. All right, 23, prison break. I'm going to stick with the prison break and save an important individual. We're starting in a luxurious hotel. I'm going to put all this together. I think I'm going to skip on the rest of this for the moment. And let's talk about maybe some factions. I'm thinking more comfortable with the concept of factions than a gang. So let's talk about a faction. People's militia or equality fighters would be the same, right? All right, sort of coming together in my mind, but we're going to continue on. Let's see, faction characteristics, objectives. I'm going to figure that out myself. These are some people's names. I have not named my people. These are sort of NPC, I guess NPC attributes and things. Let's see people's relationships. Let's see what the relationship of the gifted and the nimble, my 2 characters, are to each other. They're completely obsessed by each other. And there was the opposite of that. Actually, the main role is they owe money. And that's it. All right. So that is what I have chosen to take out of this random thing. And we have these notes that we've taken, and I'm going to put this together in the following way. Here are a look at the notes again after I went back and put in some of the core concepts here. So this is the complication, the adventure goals, what the opposition is, and what the city themes are. And then I put it all together, and I started with my characters, my Nimble, my thief character, who is agile and fast and an infiltrator, and my smart guy, who is a supernatural investigator of sorts. They're obsessed with each other, and they're starting in a luxurious hotel. So, of course, they're there together celebrating a recent heist or a boon of some sort. There's a knock on the door. This is the sort of inciting moment of the adventure where we step in here. Who's knocking on the door? Well, it's one of their old gang, one of their old group who recently broke out of jail in the citywide prison break, which is what was going on in the city theme. The city event was the break, and the theme was that the city is crime infested. This X here is the variable. I don't yet know who that is, and we'll talk about that next. This, whoever it is, thinks that the guys who are celebrating owe him or her money, because that was the other part of their relationship. The nimble and the smart is owing money, the obverse of that in the die rolling. And it's not an antagonistic thing. It's kind of more like I'm getting a vibe of like, hey guys, come on, I got stuck in jail for that thing. You guys are blowing this on your hotel because you're obsessed with each other. And now it's time for payback. I need my money back, and we're all good here, and we know we need to do what we need to do. What they need to do is they need to ultimately, the goal, or the basic adventure goal was to save an important individual, and they have to do that. They have to infiltrate something. This is a point variable Z here, and take down a person who is messing with the magic and the supernatural in the world by having taken B hostage. And what this means is that we've got this gang leader or this faction leader who has taken an important person hostage, because what they're doing has to do with making what seems supernatural not be supernatural. Well, why? What does that all mean? What I've decided is that in this world, someone has decided, say the rebels have decided, that magic can be an equalizer, and magic has been in the revolutionized society. It has been handed out to everybody in some measure, and that includes our two characters, both of whom have a little bit of access to magic. So magic has been handed out to everybody, or is slowly being handed out to everybody as an equalizer. But whoever it was, this insane gang leader, and I noted down Fairy Queen here, I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, but this person is trying to hold on to magic and keep it centralized and keep it from the masses of people. And that as such, they have taken this person B, who's the opposition, who's been trying to make magic an equalizer, hostage, and then they're doing sort of X, Y, and Z things in the world to sort of mess with magic, basically, and make certain things seem supernatural, but they're not, or to confuse the people who have been given slight access to magic so that they cannot ultimately get its power. Our goal remains to save this B person, this B variable, by X amount of time. There's going to be a time pressure element in here. And if and when they do that, they're going to gain fame among the rebels. Now, here we rolled up that they would be gaining fame among criminals, but it's really the rebels, because they're deemed criminals by the existing society, but the existing society is broken and needs to be overturned, and its corruption and its depravity and unfairness needs to be overturned. And B variable person, as yet to be determined, was trying to do that by the dispersal of the magic and the taking away of the magic from the gifted few and giving it to the many. When our characters do that, they will again gain fame among the rebellion and ultimately repay their debt to X, their friend, their former comrade, who has knocked on the door of their hotel, interrupting their little interlude. And this is where we're going to start the adventure. In trying to stick to the offerings of this book, I'm matching up. I need to come up with these variables, and I've decided to go with the occultist is going to be, in essence, the boss figure that we will be facing. That's variable A. He's going to be, well, I guess we could just determine this now. I'm going to try to do it sort of semi-randomly, but again, sticking to the offerings here, there are 4 levels of NPC cultists, and we're going to do a D4 roll to determine the level of the one that we will encounter, which is a senior cultist. So we'll note that down. And the stats for the NPCs are very limited, that they're mostly given for basic combat damage, and if you want to roll up any other stats, there's a little formula for doing so, a very basic formula. Basically, you add 10 to the hit dice number. So they're not terribly fleshed out, but we'll work with that. So again, sticking with a random, a senior cultist could have a hit die between 3 and 5. So we will do a simple die roll. We'll try to randomize that too, and we'll do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'll do 3, 4, or 5, such as that. And again, you know, if you're doing something like this, you can make the decision early on, as I have done, to just as much as possible stick to random things, because it takes some decision making away from you, or you can make the decision definitely not to do that. In this case, I'm going to go with the random. So we have a senior cultist here with a hit die level 5. So this makes thematic sense, in the sense that he is kind of almost making his way up to being the leader, and perhaps that is why he has taken over, or attempted to take over, this concept of controlling the magic. And I've chosen among the NPCs to go with the cultist because of this description: mortals who have been tempted by the forces of chaos and now worship supernatural beings bent on corrupting the world. And as discussed in the story that I'm developing here, this magic, which is for forces of good that was attempted to be spread through the world to improve things, now is being taken back and coalesced in the power, or the attempted power, of somebody for forces of evil. Clearly, the person who's entering in, our former mate who was in jail, is going to be a mercenary, and we'll see what exact level he has been, and that's going to impact our relationship to him. He's a level 2, so he's just a strict simple mercenary here, and he's got a hit die between 2 and 5, and we will give this a roll with a strict d6. So he's got a hit dice of 3, and the last variable we've got is who was the person who was attempting to thwart this cultist leader. And I've settled on somebody from the Witches' Covenant, because this is described here in the world of this game as women have been oppressed by the patriarchy for too long and have delved into the dark arts to free themselves of these bonds. They've organized themselves into covenants of witches, some of them with noble goals of helping women in need, while others have completely turned into heralds of the abyss. Well, per my story, per the themes that I'm developing here, this is a rebel character who is attempting to thwart, in this case, not necessarily patriarchy per se, but what that represents, which is the total control of a culture and a society by the few, and the attempt to dictate rules of behavior and such. So we have, as the rescue mission here is to rescue a witch, and we will see just how powerful she is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, there's 4 options here as well. So we'll see this is a witch level 4. So she's an actual hag. She is the highest level of witch, which could perhaps result in some type of showdown between her and the senior cultist. That might be a little tricky, because the rules in the book here for NPC versus NPC action, again, not terribly fleshed out, but we'll see about that. And finally, the variable Z, where the infiltration point, where is this happening? I've decided that this is going to be happening in a laboratory. The reason being that there are descriptions here. There's not like a huge bestiary in here, and there is mention of the possibilities for creating your own enemies, and Dark Streets and Darker Secrets doesn't present a full bestiary of creatures to be used by referees in their campaigns. Instead, this game focuses on inventiveness and encourages the creation of unique monsters molded to the needs of each campaign. In order to help this endeavor, we present a monster generator that will work as a starting point for ideas and creative adventures, etc. It's not an exact formula for creating monsters. You're encouraged to experiment and mix things up to create weird and exciting opponents. So I will be doing that at a certain point that it seems to make sense, and I'm not sure how it fits with my story. So there we have the variables filled in, and now clearly the first thing that's happening is our former friend, sort of still a friend, again, I'm not feeling a lot of antagonism here, is showing up, interrupting our tryst in this luxurious hotel and telling us or imploring us to help and rescue this witch, and as a consequence, pay back what we owe him, both in money and in time, I guess, because he served some prison time there. I realize I haven't given my characters any names, and there is actually a name D100 name table here, so let's give some names. Who is our smart? Our smart is Franco. We got Franco the Smart, and our Nimble character is Co. K-O. Franco and Co. And the mercenary, feeling this mercenary as a guy, so let's go to the guy table roll. Carlos. Carlos the mercenary shows up and interrupts Co and Franco in their luxurious hotel. And the first thing that is happening is Franco and Carlos are confronting each other, and Franco is going to attempt to get Carlos to give more information perhaps than Carlos wants to, because while there's not going to be a fight here, there's definitely some, there's not that, it's not exactly let's hug it out either. So we're going to use Franco's ability as a smart. He's got this repository of knowledge ability, which allows him to make a luck roll. Everybody has a certain amount of luck in the game, and if he succeeds in the luck roll, his luck level is 3. That's what everybody starts with. If he succeeds in that, which is to say, if he rolls it or under, he's going to get a little bit of a benefit in talking to Carlos. That is going to be how the interaction goes, and indeed he did get a benefit. And I should say, with the luck here, if you attempt the luck roll and you fail, then you lose 1 level of your base luck until you're out of luck. So that is the penalty or the risk in trying that, but he did succeed. He just succeeded. So we're going to get from Carlos, the interaction is going to be, we'll say, it'll be grudgingly helpful. That's the vibe I'm getting. Grudgingly helpful. And what we need to learn is exactly where in the city to go, how to get to this laboratory, where we go next, what do we do next. If we don't find this out from Carlos, we are going to be wandering around with a penalty. And to get this information from Carlos, who has a hit die of 3, the basic rule of the game, and now's a good opportunity to go over how this works. This is a D20 roll against your relevant attributes. So for example, you need to roll under your attribute and above the difficulty level of the task. And the difficulty level of the task is basically going to be between 1 and 5. One of the ways to determine the difficulty level of that task is to take the HD of the opponent. And in this case, we saw that Carlos had an HD of 3. The difference between that and your own level, which is a 1, to assign the difficulty level of the task. So in this case, the difficulty level of the task is going to be 2. We need to roll between 2 and 11 to have a success using our intellect. And in this case, the relevant attribute is going to be intellect. We need to see whether Franco can convince Carlos to give the information, and we rolled a 9, so that does fall within that area. And so grudgingly, Carlos is going to tell Franco and Co exactly where to go and how to infiltrate the laboratory where this person is being. I should say too that with that luck roll that I did, had we failed the luck roll, in addition to losing luck moving forward, I would have increased the difficulty of this task as an implication of failing that luck roll. But given all these circumstances, how likely is it that we're just going to get out of here? I want to say I'm going to say it's unlikely, but let's see. Let's give it a roll and see. This is a D20 with a -2 modifier, and we rolled 18, 16. Well, you know what? Yeah, we're getting out of here. Wow. All right, our luck is holding. We're just going to get out of here. We're going to leave Carlos behind, and we're going to set foot out of this luxurious hotel into the city. And let's find out where in the city we are. Let's roll on this neighborhood themes table to see a little bit more about the neighborhood of this luxurious hotel. And we rolled a 16. Cultural resistance. Okay, so perhaps this hotel is part of or a remnant of the life that was being built up before, when magic was begun to be freely distributed to the people, and as a result they were improving themselves as the as per the goals of what they wanted to do. And this hotel was a remnant of that. But then this corrupt cultist got control and started to thwart all of that. So this is why our protagonists have kind of holed up in this hotel. And as they exit the hotel, they look around the street, and we've got a street features table here. We'll see what kind of stuff they see on the street. 26. It's overgrown and abandoned. So we've got the remnants of the cultural resistance here, but as we can see, time is passing, and the efforts of the people to take control of the world through magic and better themselves are the 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 indications that those efforts are failing are happening. As they walk, let's see. As they walk, do they hear anything as they're walking along? Now they're, per what we rolled up, they're going to should be having a relatively easy time to get where they're going. 22. We hear some loud hip hop music playing somewhere. Doesn't say how far away. I guess we could see if that's far away. We could go to I have a random table. Let's see how far away that music is. Maybe there's somebody here. Let's see. How far away is a thing? So we're going to go to, well, we don't know if it's the same place or, well, this looks like outside. So we'll see how distant it is. This is a 2d4 roll. Okay, how far away is this music? This music is 3. Don't really read these properly. Within a week's ride or in the next room. So we'll say it's a street over. We'll interpret that to mean they hear it. They're not necessarily right with the music or who's ever playing it. Perhaps they will attempt to be, but right now, no. And let's see if they see anything while they're walking around outside here. 51, a giant billboard promoting the latest product. Well, in the fiction that I'm developing here, what they do see is this being the remnants of the expanded area where magic had been taking hold in a positive way. They do see some type of signage that says, perhaps, get your latest spell here or something like that in a store. So this is where they're walking, and see if there's anything else in the city as they continue along. I don't see anything from here. What I'm going to go to, however, is I'm going to go to a table from the Solo Adventurers Toolbox, and I'm going to roll up on this ideas table. I want to just get some sense of direction. I want to get some kind of a feeling going here. And this table and others like it are good for some kind of direction when you don't really have something automatic. We've got a 3 and an 11. This brings us to information. All right, information. Kind of information. 1 and a 4. Information about illusions. As they're walking through the city, perhaps they stop and they look at this billboard or this signage that is a remnant of the advertisement for magic. And based on their observation of it, they get some information that's going to help them when they enter this laboratory. So what is the chance that, given this idea that they're getting information about an illusion when they're walking, what is the chance that this billboard, this signage that we have discovered here is related to this? I'm going to say, I'll say it's possible. We'll just roll on this table here for a possibility. And maybe, we got a maybe. With a maybe, I think we're going to go and investigate it further. We're going to walk toward this table. Or excuse me, we're going to walk toward this billboard and we'll investigate it further. And as we walk, what is the chance that that music that we heard is related to somebody who is also connected to this billboard or this signage and who may come out to talk to us? Let's give this a roll and we'll just say it's possible. So no modification here. Say it's possible. Oh, 19. Definitely a yes. So we are going to be, as we walk forward, we're going to be looking at this signage, this remnant of something, and as we approach it, the music is getting louder, and the source of the music is going to be somebody or something. And let's figure out who is having this music. Actually, before we even figure out who this is, as we approach, I want to do a roll on this destiny table. I haven't really been following it, but this comes also from the Solo Adventures Guide. I've talked about this in a different video, and I'll put a link to that. I'm going to say our chaos level right now is about a 7, because this is an event that is happening, and some things have already happened. So we're going to do the destiny check here with the chaos level of 7, and the question is, is this person likely to be friendly to us? And given all things considered, I'm just going to say unlikely. We don't necessarily, not very unlikely, because we don't know, and we do have this information that we are going to be proceeding easily to the lab, but unlikely given the circumstance of everywhere we are. So that's going to bring me to a modifier here of a +1. We rolled a 15, so that's giving us a 16. So the chances that they're unfriendly are going to be a yes. And let's see now in what way, what this means for our interaction here. And that's going to be a rolling with a d10, and we rolled a 9. So we have a negative event before the planned scene. Well, this is our negative event, really, before the planned scene. The planned scene being our attempt to go to the laboratory. So this is telling me that the interaction here we're going to be having with this, whoever this is going to be negative. And the question is, negative in what way? So we're going to roll on the negative event table and see what we get. 15, PC negative, choose a randomly determine one PC, roll an idea, and interpret. Okay, so as we approach one of us is going to be reacting pretty negatively to whomever it is we see, and we'll just determine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 which one of us is. That's going to be Franco. So Franco here is going to somehow be reacting negatively. Now, at this point, it's good to either remind ourselves about some things concerning Franco or to develop them if we haven't, because we know that whatever character, even if it's a monster or something that we encounter, Franco is going to have a particular relationship to that thing. And rather than starting out by rolling up the thing randomly and then trying to figure out the relationship, I want to pause and go back to what we know about Franco to start with, and perhaps what we could develop to give a starting point for whatever interaction we're going to have. So we're going back to the character here, and I said from the beginning that I was really basing my character here on the just what is in the book here. So Franco is the smart character. That is his archetype, and he has his special abilities. He's a repository of knowledge, so he has a great deal of information about what's going on, and in this case it was about the supernatural. So we know that from the random generator that we had, that the story that we're dealing with here has to do with what seems supernatural isn't. And out of that, we developed this concept of the magic that had spread being taken back in some way. We also know that as the smart, Franco has or did have some limited access to magic. Perhaps he was, since this is in the context of being a rebellion against the authoritarian society, perhaps he was one of the leaders of the group that was setting out to spread magic in a more equitable way. And here he also does have a particular link to the supernatural, where he is able to access information about the supernatural at a half difficulty level. So this is telling me that he also has particular access to understanding why what is seeming supernatural isn't, and the intricacies of this cultist leader that is trying to turn the tide of, say, the democratization of magic, which is really what we're getting at here in terms of what's happening in the world. So the fact that he has particular understanding of that may be related to the sensitivity that he's going to demonstrate toward whoever this person or individual is. Perhaps this person or individual is key on the other side, or maybe has turned against the rebels who are seeking to spread magic. And here we have his other skill. As I've read about this, the smart also specializes in various fields of knowledge. I had made a note, I didn't really develop this, I had made a note on the character sheet that he specialized in architecture, and that's kind of my go-to default. If you watch my channel enough, you know that I have a strong interest in architecture and bring that in when possible to many of the things that I do. So in this case, I just gave him a strong interest in architecture. I'm not sure how that is going to be relevant here, but you never know. It could be relevant. So it's good to remind ourselves of these things. And I'm just wondering if we should go to the book here and see there were some other things for NPCs that I didn't really roll up on. If there's anything here, their personality, we don't really have a sense of Franco's personality, so let's give him a personality to see if perhaps if we're encountering someone that we have a strong feeling about, certainly our personality is going to be involved in that in some way. So, let's give that a roll and give him a random personality trait that we'll just note down. All right, we'll give him a random personality trait that we'll note down here. 54. He's uncaring. Well, he doesn't really look uncaring to me. I don't want him to be uncaring. Let's see what 45 is. Sarcastic. All right, he could be sarcastic. That's fine. Again, and especially if you're not just starting out and really trying to use the randomness to guide you, if you have a story developed, as we do right now, and you roll on something and it doesn't fit, my go-to is just to reverse the number or even roll again. Let's see if he has some kind of a secret. He's a sarcastic guy with perhaps a secret. 33. Crime boss. Not sure how that's going to come into play here. Perhaps I don't think he was a crime boss, but perhaps maybe he was the son of a crime boss, or in this case, since to fit our story, crime boss doesn't exactly work, again, getting back to this concept of the rebel, perhaps he had some particular relationship to the leader of the faction that was seeking to continue the spread of magic to everyone. And we are going to be now figuring out who we encounter. We already know that the encounter is going to be a negative one. We could roll on this relationship table and just see if that gives us any indication of the reason for the negative. We don't even know who it is yet. But with a 62, well, ally. Ally. Right. So that's going to tell me that whoever this is, had been a former ally, clearly, because we're talking a negative thing here. So, as I was suggesting earlier, and this interpretation would bear that out, whoever we're encountering perhaps had been a former ally in some way of Franco, and maybe Co also, who has now gone over to the other side and is appearing in the city as they are going on their way to this laboratory where they hope to effectively rescue the person who's going to continue on with their rebellion. Now we need to figure out who this person is going to be. Again, I want to stick to what's offered here. We do have this list of opponents here. It seems like there's about 15 different types of list of opponents. Now, some of them may not work, but I'm just going to see. I'm going to do it just totally. I'm just going to do a random and see if the random, it's only 15, but let's just see what we got. If we can get something, we got a 9. All right, so 9 is going to be 1, 2, 8, 9. The fairy court. Well, it's interesting because I earlier somewhere had thought that perhaps the opposition would be some kind of fairy queen. I turned it into not that, but interesting that I got this. All right, so somebody from the fairy court, and we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll see at what level this fairy court person is. A 2. It's a red cap. It's a red cap fairy who had been a former ally of our smart. And what I'm going to say is that they met each other. Their relationship dated back to the time when Franco was first realizing that he was among these gifted smarts who had access to some magic. And this red cap, somehow they became friends, and the red cap helped him in learning magic, in having access to magic, and in understanding why magic was the equitable way. And then something went wrong between the two of them. The red cap thwarted the efforts at certain point of the rebels who Franco became involved with, wanting to democratize magic, and back to the other side, and in fact became an opponent, and now is coming out of the shadows to confront Franco and Co. also on their way to this laboratory.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to have to end this a little prematurely. I didn't want to end on this cliffhanger for this video. I was trying to do a complete session, but as you can tell, I'm having some sound problems, and I can't really diagnose them appropriately, nor do I have the capacity at the moment to go to a store and try to figure out what's going on. So I'm going to post what I have and hope that it's enough to really demonstrate both specifically the kind of versatility of this small system, Dark Streets, Darker Secrets, for solo play. How you can really create an easy one-off story for yourself that comes alive using just a small set of rules and some imagination, a couple of die rolls on some random tables, and a couple of die rolls on some, I won't even call them emulators, just yes-no tables. Very basic stuff, not any complicated emulators, but to create what at least I think and hope had some narrative appeal, some character development, and some questions that remain unanswered.